The lesson involves describing exactly what your character is feeling. So you should describe what is your state, what is your emotional feeling, and you don't do it in just one word. I don't want to hear, I'm sad, I'm angry, okay, I am upset. I want you to give as detailed an explanation about how it feels, what instances in your own life have you felt that emotion, when have you seen other people in that spot, okay?
Aaron Schildkrout is the 10th grade humanities teacher at Codman Academy, a charter public school in Boston. This semester, his students are working on a project that grew out of a year-long focus on social justice and injustice. The project included multiple components and community connections centered around essential questions.
Not only are we basing our work on justice and injustice throughout the year, but there are also a series of questions that students are investigating. And those questions have been designed based on what sorts of understandings I want my students not only to have, but to wrestle with throughout the year. And then the project, both the second semester project or expedition and also the work that students did in the first semester of the year, were based on trying to create work that would push students to inquire deeply into and wrestle with questions of injustice that are phrased through the essential questions that we have. If you feel stuck and you're having trouble like listing lots of stuff, go into that one thing and talk more explicitly about what was injustice, how did you feel, where were you at when it happened, those kinds of questions, okay? Because that's a fine brainstorm to do too. You could write an entire letter about one incident, okay?
Students began their projects by writing letters to a person of their choosing, reflecting upon the role of justice and injustice in their own lives.
What I wrote in my letter was about the time I got robbed when I was walking home from school. And 3 kids walked up on me and pulled a gun out on me and asked for everything I had. And they took my wallet, had about $30 in there, my bus pass, and they took my baseball hat.
Everything they did afterwards was grounded in the understanding that was derived out of their own lives. And I think that was invaluable, and it really brought the project to life. So already when they started investigating, AIDS in Africa or South African apartheid or the war in Iraq, they already had a grounded personal understanding of what injustice and justice were.
This is an oral history. I had to interview an eyewitness of the South African apartheid.
Next, students moved from their own experiences out into the community, interviewing others who were willing to share their personal accounts of justice and injustice.
As he was telling us the stories in the interview, I was really into it. His story was really powerful.
One thing I was hoping is at least if the students can learn the global perspectives or perspective on issues like racism or poverty, war or violence. What happened in my country, Rwanda, I will compare that to the violence here.
I think I am a survivor. People kill themselves over the things I've gone through.
Aaron's students translated their community partners' interviews into stories. Those stories were showcased in a dramatic performance at the Huntington Theatre in downtown Boston's Symphony District.
We found 4 children, all between the ages of 3 and 7. When we asked where their parents were, the oldest pointed to a small corner in the back of the room. As we walked towards the corner, we realized that their parents were dead.
So they'll come in through the sides like this?
Yeah, I think they could. I think students could do that.
A community partner at the theater helped make the performance possible.
Aaron and I are total collaborators. He worked with me to understand knowing how you find that dramatic moment, turn it into a monologue, make it conversational, and also tell the meat of the story.
There was a story that Kosi told me about how she had found a bullet in her bedroom. And so from that story, I turned it into my own monologue. Like it was me telling the story to these refugees that were trying to break this cycle of injustice and become free.
I woke up suddenly from my sleep one night, startled and terrified to see my window broken. I was frightened. I called out for my mother. She raced into my room and held me tightly in her arms. Through my tears, I could see my father standing in the doorway. He walked to the center of my room and bent down to pick up something from the floor, a bullet.
With this project, because she's doing the research and we interviewing and we were talking back and forth, I felt like there's much more of a connection and that it's something that she'll remember even 5 years, 10 years from now.
When Codman students brought their partners' oral histories to life on stage and published those stories on their website, they focused a spotlight on the ongoing impact of injustice in the global community.
One thing that I think is super important about this project is that students knew that their work was going to be public in a variety of different ways, and even more than that, they felt like the publicness of it was a service to the world. So service is an essential part of project-based learning in my sense of it, and what that means for me is that the components of this project should be built in such a way that students know that they are serving in some way.
So if I was to like set up something to like help people understand what's going on, maybe other people in big organizations would try to help.
These are young people that are getting ready to go out into the working world, and they've already established a focus, at least in part, on the realities and some of the cruelties that happen throughout the world. As new working individuals, they can have an impact.
And that's what Codman students would like to see as well. They've experienced their power and responsibility as citizens. They've become agents of social change.
Break the window, shatter the glass, remove the barricade of hate, and let the world see the truth.
I vow to fight for justice by becoming a successful doctor and by helping to teach others about HIV and AIDS.
It was a narrative that was counter to the narrative that they had had before, and that all of a sudden opened up all these possibilities for them about what kind of life they could live and how they could find meaning in their lives and how they could move against a lot of the traps that they might have otherwise fallen into.
I vow to fight for justice in my life by doing what I feel is right and not letting no one take advantage of me or feel like they're better than me.
And that, to me, was really profound. You know, kids gained this vocabulary around justice that allowed them to transform their understanding of their lives and what they could do in order to heal themselves and move into the future in ways that were exciting and beautiful for them.
Letting no one tell me that I'm not going to make it.
There you go, girl.